Prime Minister, the NATO summit is just around the corner. What is the minimum Ukraine should get for you to be satisfied from that summit?
Well, the talks are ongoing. What is important that we go beyond Bucharest wording. For us, it is very important that we agree on, practical steps, how Ukraine gets into NATO. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was reading a book about NATO's history, since the wall of the Berlin Wall. And what was interesting, how, Visegrad countries and the Baltic countries were accepted to NATO. And then the US president was saying, first if they will be members, but then it changed when they will be members of NATO. And I think that should be the similar attitude towards Ukraine. It's not if, but when. Of course, we understand it can't happen when the war is going on, but we have to have, clear pathway how Ukraine gets there.
So talk about when. Could we see something leading up to the Washington summit next year then?
Well, it's hard to tell. It has many conditions. I mean, the question is how this war is going. But there are practical steps that we can do in between. I'm of the opinion that we should end the grey zones in Europe, because grey zones are a source of conflict and war. So if we want to have peace, then NATO's membership is the only security guarantee and the cheapest security guarantee that there is.
But okay, so what are the things we can give them during the war?
What we have given so far, I mean, we have given military aid to Ukraine, and I sometimes think if we would have given all the military aid we are giving now already in January 2022, like Estonia did, or even February 2022, maybe we would have already seen the end of this war, because Russia would have realized earlier that it can't win this war. But we have to keep our stance and do that as long as it takes to be behind. And this is what we can give, but it's also the agreements or that separate NATO's allies are giving to Ukraine. It's not NATO as an organization.
Another thing that's going to happen at the NATO summit is obviously the agreement on defense plans. Will these defense plans actually defend the Baltic states from day one? Are you confident of that? Because before, it would have been that the Russians would have run over this place and then the allies would have come to your help.
Liberate,
so will you be defended from day one now?
Yes, we got very strong decisions in Madrid to change from deterrence posture to defense posture. So what it means is that we are able to defend ourselves together with our allies from the first moment, from the first inch. But it goes also together with the defense spending. So, I mean, one is the plans and the other one is the execution, the implementation of those plans. So when we are talking about pre-positioned equipment, ammunition, then you need to have those as well, which means that you need to invest more in order to fulfill those plans, in order for the troops, European troops, to be combat ready.
Finally, Western Balkans. I know this is a region that we maybe sometimes have forgotten in the Ukrainian war, but right now we see real problems, especially between Serbia and Kosovo. Should NATO play a larger role there? Are you supportive of this sort of more of an international conference that Charles Michel and Edi Rama, the Albanian Prime Minister, have talked about? How do you see, how can this be solved? Because it's clearly a problem.
Yeah, it's clearly a problem that we shouldn't overlook. And I think there are major efforts done to trying to, bring the tensions down in that region. And there are many players who try to do that. So, of course, NATO has a role as the K4 is keeping the peace there. And we also have to keep in mind that Russia really wants to flame this conflict in order to get the attention away from Ukraine to the Western Balkans. So there are efforts made, and I'm very grateful for those who are really making the efforts. I know that the Benelux prime ministers went or are going to the region to trying to bring the parties together. It was one of the Western Balkan summit, European summit, that one of the prime ministers of one Western Balkan country said that, you know, what is the positive side of Europe is that, I mean, we are around this table. We didn't talk to each other 70 years. And now we are here and we are talking to each other. That is already a good thing. And I think Kosovo and Serbia, when, you know, the parties talk to each other, it's easier to solve the tensions that are there.
But should it be moved to another level? Because it clearly seems like the EU, NATO, it doesn't work. They're not even talking to each other anymore.
The efforts are made, I mean, to make them talk to each other again. And the problems are there. So clearly we have to make more efforts. And I really feel that all the parties are trying to make those efforts to bring the tensions down. Whether these are successful, of course, depends on both parties as well. But I don't think that they need, again, to have a huge conflict there.
Prime Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you.